Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today, we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's wife I'm sorry, but she's not my mom? I-16M was the product of what is pretty much a friend with benefits type relationship between my dad at the time 33 and my mom at the time 22. My mom didn't want to be a mom. Yet my dad didn't want my mom to abort. From what little I have been told, there was an agreement. My mom would leave, my dad would raise me on his own, but if she wanted to, she could come back into my life whenever. The first 7 years of my life were just my dad and I. He didn't date any other woman. It was just us two and his family. I remember my mom would send me gifts on my birthday and Christmas with letters attached. I remember members of her family doing the same. When I turned 7, my mom came back. I started spending time with her. She would take me to parks, zoos, and aquariums, etc. I also met her family. I love this. Although I now know my dad didn't like the fact that my mom randomly showed up out of nowhere wanting to spend time with me, although he did soften up to it over time. I still have contact with my mom. I don't see her as often as before, but I still love her and see her as much as possible. There was no conflict due to this situation at all until when I was 14. My dad met a new woman. I will call A for this. A and my dad started dating when I was 14, married when I was 15. I brought her twins 15M for both from her previous relationship into her marriage with my dad. I have a good relationship with both my stepbrothers. I have a decent relationship with A, but two things always bugged me. One, how my dad seemed to rush into marrying A. He proposed to her 3 months into their relationship. 2, I wanted me to call her mom literally the day I met her. She had 2 reasons for this. 1, I don't have a mom, and I need one. 2, she wants our family to be more united. I always just shrugged this off. I got away with it because when my dad married A, it's like he forgot about me completely and didn't care about me. I also felt like it wasn't my place to complain. That's the context of all of this. We're a year into dad and his marriage. His birthday is coming up. All of us bought her a gift, but she says she doesn't like physical ones and also said she wants a more verbal gift from me. Last night at dinner, I learned what this was. She asked me if I say yes to letting her adopt me so she could be my mom. Of course, it caught me off guard. I said no. I already have a mom. A doesn't like the fact I talk to my actual mom still, and she said that she's my mom because she's at home with me every day and is married to my dad. Then called my actual mom a part-timer in my life. I told her no. I'm sorry I can't her son, but even if my actual mom is a part-timer, she was there for me a long time before she was. I received an angry scolding for this from both my dad and A. Specifically has been cold towards me since then. I'm struggling to comprehend this and need to ask anonymously if I was in the wrong here. Top comments. She's only been around for how long, and she wants to call your mom a part-time mom? LOL. Projection much? Edit. She's been there for an eighth of Op's life. She should try and see where she can fit, not shoving a square peg through each round hole. Besides, we all know it's all going into the square hole. Opie replies, I think it's because my actual mom used to only see me on weekends for the longest time. She has her own business now that makes her busy, so I'm lucky to see her once every 2 weeks. I do text her every day though. She checks up on me all the time via text, but again, it's only once in a while I get to hang out with her in person. Meanwhile, A is someone I see every day. This doesn't change anything. My mom is my actual mom. A is still new to me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my mother when she asked when I would finally kick out my daughter? Hi, I am fairly new to using Reddit, but I have lurked on some subreddits before, including this one. Anyway, on to my problem. I, 66F, am retired but kept very busy by caring for my mother, 85F, and my disabled husband, 64 meters. My mother does not live with us. She lives in an assisted living facility, where I visit her every few days to check up on her and see if she needs anything. During my latest visit, she brought up how I should finally kick out my daughter 29F. Let's call her C. Now for some context. Yes, my daughter does indeed still live with me and my husband. For many factors including her rather fragile mental health, But what my mother does not understand is that, despite us being parent and child, we are not living in a parent and child kind of situation. We are roommates that just happen to also be family, because neither her nor my husband and I could afford places of our own in this economy. We are dependent on C just as much as she is dependent on us. C holds down a full-time job, which doesn't pay great, but not awfully either. She pays her fair share in rent, utilities, and groceries, does her fair share of chores, and sometimes even takes over some of my chores when she feels that I need a break. I cook on weekdays when C has to work, but C has weekends off, so she takes over cooking duties then. She has a savings account for emergencies. She pays for the family Netflix account, and even spends some of the fun money she has left over every month, which isn't much, on little treats for my husband and me, no matter how often I ask her not to waste what little money she has to enjoy life on us. So with all of that as background, my mother's comments made me pretty angry, because C does so much to not be a burden to my husband and me, despite me telling her that I love her and could never see her as a burden. I also fear my mother may have planted that thought in her head when I wasn't around. Meanwhile, all my mother seems to do is demand, demand, demand. She has nurses at her disposal in that assisted living facility, and people who do grocery runs for her. But she never uses these services and demands that I do everything for her instead. She demands all of my time, energy, and attention. I suspect she may want to push me to kick C out so she could move in with my husband and I and force me to be her full-time caretaker. I was already having a crappy day, so I just snapped and told her that C's living situation is none of her damn business. She started crying and asked why I would yell at her for just being concerned. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for snapping at my mother? Top comments. Not the a-hole. Parents of any age love to judge their kids' living and financial situations, even when they don't have all the information. The economy is in the crap. I think it's nice that your daughter is staying at home and helping you out. Does your mom know about the financial situation? Do you want her to know? Maybe it's time for some tough love. Lower your visitations. Even if she is your mother, you don't owe her anything. Family does not have the right to ruin your peace. Opie replies, my mom knows about our financial situation, but she thinks that's no excuse. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my roommate's boyfriend use my car, even though it made him miss a job interview? So I 25F share an apartment with my roommate Jess 24F. We generally get along okay, but she started dating this guy Kyle a few months ago and he's been around constantly. He doesn't live here officially, but he's here 5 to 6 nights a week, eats our food, uses our stuff, and never really contributes to anything. It's annoying, but I've tolerated it to keep the peace. I own a car, which I use for work, errands, and occasional weekend trips. Jess doesn't have a car, and neither does Kyle. Last week, Kyle asked me very last minute if he could borrow my car to drive to a job interview. I asked a few questions: where it was, how far, how long he needed, and it turned out he needed it during a time I'd already told Jess I had a doctor's appointment across town. I said sorry, but I needed it and couldn't change my appointment. He got pissed and said I was being selfish and ruining his shot at a better life. Jess backed him up, saying I could Uber to the doctor just this once, because his interview was more important than my checkup. I said no. I'm not comfortable lending my car to someone I barely know, especially not for a time I already need it. I don't owe him that. They both sulked and gave me the cold shoulder for days. Kyle apparently missed the interview because he couldn't find a ride and is now blaming me for ruining his future. I feel a little bad because I could have changed my appointment if I really wanted to. But also, it's my car, my schedule, and I don't think I should have to upend my plans for someone who doesn't even live here. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Why couldn't he take an Uber to the interview? He should have secured transportation when he set the interview date/time. Couldn't he call a car rental place and rent a car for the day? Enterprise will even bring a car to you. Well, they used to offer that. I don't know if they still do. But let's say you did lend him your car and he goes to the interview. It goes well and he is hired. How is he going to get to work every day? Would it then be your fault if he can't take your car to get to work every day? You were right not to lend it. What if he got in an accident and totaled it? Can he afford to replace it? No, he needs to get a vehicle and then get an interview. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making cinnamon bread for my sisters-in-law when my mother-in-law is allergic to cinnamon? I have 22 have jumped on the sourdough bread train. I now make the bread we eat instead of buying it, and when I make a loaf of bread, I post a picture of it and post it on my story. I've had several people slide up and say they would love a loaf, including my in-laws. Right now, we are home visiting our family. I brought my starter and baking supplies to make loaves for the people who have asked while staying at my mom's. For my in-laws, I made 3 loaves. The Sills high school age wanted a cinnamon swirl loaf, so that's what I made for them. My mother-in-law says she is allergic to cinnamon, so I made her 2 small loaves regular and a cheddar jalapeno. I baked her loaves first to avoid any cross-contamination, and I wrapped the cinnamon loaf and put it in its own container separate from the loaves that would go to mother-in-law. When I dropped them off, I made sure to tell them that 1 loaf was cinnamon. Today, while we were there, mother-in-law cut herself a slice of the cinnamon bread saying she wanted to taste it. All of us said she really shouldn't since she's allergic to cinnamon. She said she would avoid the cinnamon swirl and just eat the plain bread. After more protest, it was clear that she was not going to listen. She ate it, said it was good, and cut another slice. After a while, nothing happened. My husband and I assumed that maybe she isn't as allergic as she thought, and everything was fine. We went back to my mom's house, and an hour later, both of our phones started blowing up. Mother-in-law says I gave her horrible diarrhea with my nasty bread, and is now claiming that I tried to poison her by giving them bread that has cinnamon in it. My husband has pressed that I did everything I needed to do to keep the bread separate, and that eating the cinnamon bread was 100% her choice. She and now my husband's grandma are adamant that I shouldn't have brought cinnamon bread into the house at all, and I should have just told my Sills no. I thought bringing it would be fine. I've been there plenty of times when Sills had cinnamon rolls on the stove or snickerdoodle cookies in a jar. I assumed that she wouldn't even touch the container because as far as I had seen, she didn't touch the other stuff. Top comments. Hey, I have a cinnamon allergy. I always bring my own dessert and would absolutely never expect family or friends to not have what they want because of my allergy. You are absolutely not the a-hole, and your mother-in-law sounds like a whole lot of work. Opie replies, this has been something I've actually said in the past. I'm allergic to raw berries, but in-laws really like berry picking in the summer. They've invited us, and I either go and just carry the buckets, or I don't go at all. I'm not expecting them to choose a different activity, and I always appreciate being invited regardless. But if I went and picked berries and got a rash, I'd say, I shouldn't have done that, and not, why did you invite me? Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my roommate after they broke into my room? So, I 22F live with 2 roommates, one 22F, the other 23F, and we've had some tension lately. I've always been a private person, so I make it a point to keep my room door closed when I'm not there. The trouble started a few weeks ago when one of my roommates, let's call her Rachel, started borrowing my things without asking. I don't mind sharing occasionally, but Rachel would take stuff without telling me, and when I confronted her about it, she'd either deny it or get defensive. After a couple of weeks of this, I decided to check with our landlord to make sure it was okay to put a lock on my bedroom door. He said it was fine as long as it wasn't an issue with the door frame, so I went ahead and installed it. I felt like it was the only way to keep my things safe, especially after I noticed some of my personal items were moved or misplaced. Fast forward to a few days ago, I came home from work and noticed that the door to my room was wide open. Immediately, I got this sinking feeling. My laptop, which I had left on my desk, was missing, as well as my Nintendo Switch. I called Rachel and my other roommate and asked if they had been in my room. Rachel acted surprised but also defensive, and they just seemed concerned, asking if everything was okay. I was furious. I knew that the only way my door would be open was if someone had broken in, and at this point, I was pretty sure I knew who it was. I went into my room and searched for my laptop and Switch, but they were gone. After some back and forth with Rachel, I realized that she had taken them without permission. When I confronted her, she admitted to borrowing them for a few days but didn't think it was a big deal. At that point, I was beyond frustrated. I told Rachel that I didn't appreciate her violating my privacy, and I was done trying to sort things out on my own. I called the police to report that my property had been stolen and that I felt unsafe in my own home. The police showed up, and after hearing my side of things and talking to Rachel, they advised her to return the laptop and switch and apologized for the inconvenience. The laptop was returned, but the switch wasn't, and she claimed that she didn't know I owned a switch. She seemed to think I was overreacting, and some of my friends have also been saying that I might have taken things too far by involving the cops. Now, I'm feeling conflicted. I honestly didn't expect things to escalate this much, but I felt like I had no choice. I'm just so tired of being taken advantage of in my own home. But at the same time, I feel bad because now things are super awkward with Rachel, and the police involvement might have been too dramatic. So, am I the a-hole for calling the police on my roommate after she went into my room without permission and took my devices? Top comments. Not the a-hole, she straight up burgled you. If that switch doesn't turn up immediately, you need to get yourself down to the station and make sure they do file a report. This ain't just some petty flatmate drama. She broke in and nicked your stuff. If she's getting away with this, what's stopping her from doing it again? No a-hole here, she's taking the piss. Get your switch back and seriously reconsider living with her. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.